Hello, everybody. Welcome to section 4.6. This is factoring trinomials. So this is a section that, honestly, I'm going to say things like this over and over again, but this is a section we can't do without. This is maybe the most important section we do all semester. It is certainly the one that has the information we will use the most in it. But this will follow you around basically for the next, 3.5 months. All right, so in this section, we're going to use the AC method. We'll talk about trial and error, but we have the AC method, so we'll get there. And then we're going to do perfect squares and substitution. So the AC method is super important. Here's how it works. We're going to factor out any greatest common factors first. Whenever anything that is factoring related is introduced to you, the first thing you should do every single time is go, are there any greatest common factors? If there are, get rid of them. Take them out because it'll always make your life easier. That's fine. Then you're going to multiply the coefficients of the first and last terms, A times C. You're going to look for two numbers whose product is A times C and whose sum is B. If there's nothing like that exists, it's prime. We're going to see all of this in a minute. We're going to rewrite the middle term as the sum of those two integers, and then we're going to factor by grouping. This, let me tell you right now, if you're going to miss a step in this, it's this one right here. We're going to talk about that as we go. So these are the steps. Now let's actually use them because this just sounds like gobbledygook until we do, right? Okay, so here is my thing that I need to factor. Great. I have 12x squared minus 5x minus 2. And I'm looking at it and like nothing jumps right out at me. So the AC method says this. It says multiply A times C. Just the coefficients, just the numbers. So 12 times 2 is 24. Okay? That's my product. I want to find two numbers that multiply to 24. Okay? They multiply and they make 24. And when I add and subtract them, oh, sorry, I made negative 24 because that's a negative 2. They add and subtract to make negative 5. Okay, so think about ways to make 24. I can do 12 times 2. That's not going to work. I can do 6 times 4. That's not going to work. But 8 and 3 do. So if I do, let's see, 3 times 8 is 24. But one of them has to be negative. So if I did negative 3, that would get me 5. That doesn't work. So it's got to be negative 8 times 3. Okay, so now the third step here was to rewrite. This is the key here. I know my terms. So I'm just going to change negative 5 into negative 8x plus 3x. I'm just rewriting it, and everything else sticks around. Now we're going to do what we did in the last video. We're going to factor by grouping. So we're going to make our two groups. Oops, I tried to make my group too big. There's one group, there's the other. Let's see what we can take out of the first group. I have 12x squared minus 8x. I can pull out 4x. That leaves me with 3x minus 2. That's great. That's what I have in the second group. So when I want something to stay the way it is, what am I technically removing from it? What can I multiply it by to keep it the same? Well, it's a 1, right? So plus 1. And I'm going to keep 3x minus 2 the way it is. So now I have my two groups. I have my binomial. I'm going to bring that to the front. 3x plus 2 times 4x plus 1. Gather up everything else. And it's done. Ignore that little bit there. All right, let's try this again, okay? Same idea. Try it yourself. I will do it in a second, but you could always pause the video. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to start with 10 times negative 3. 10 times negative 3 is negative 30. So now I need two numbers that multiply to make negative 30 and add and subtract to make 1. Well, let's see. 10 times 3 doesn't work. 15 times 2 doesn't work. 3 times 10, nope, 5 times 6 would though. Let's see, 5 times 6 is 30. But I need to get a positive 1 there. So -5, -6 plus 5 doesn't work, but -5 plus 6 would, because that would be a 1. So now remember that third step, the rewriting. Here are my two factors. I'm going to rewrite that. So it's going to be 10x squared minus 5x plus 6x minus 3. And here's the thing. I can do these in either order. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it's more expedient to put them one way or the other. Like the 5 and the 10 match together pretty well, as is 6 and 3. Maybe better than 5 and 3 would. So sometimes the order is just sort of what matches up better, where the factors will be easier to get. That's fine, but either order would work. So now we're going to make our groups. Here's one group. Here's two groups. What can I take out of the first group? I can take out 5x. So that leaves me with 2x minus 1, because that's my placeholder, plus I'm going to take out a 3 out of the second group. That leaves me with 2x minus 1. All right, so here's my binomial. Pull that to the front, 2x minus 1, and gather up what's left, 5x plus 3, and we're done. Now, you can always check this. Remember, if you're not sure if you're right, check. FOIL, you would re-multiply with FOIL, right? And then when you re-multiply, you should get that back, all right? Okay, let's try another. Ah, look at this one, super ugly, but here's the thing. Do you notice anything? There's a lot of common terms in here, aren't there? So we should be able to factor out the common term first. Let's get rid of what's common. Okay, so I see everybody's got at least one C. Not everybody has a D, so I can't take that out. Everybody's divisible by 2. So I'm actually going to take out, interestingly, it's always helpful to have this first term be positive. So I'm going to take out a -2 and a C. So let's pull out -2C. What happens? That becomes 10C squared. Oops. Minus, let's see, that's a 17CD plus, because I pulled out a -3D squared. All right, so I'm going to close that parenthesis. Okay, so now I need to use the AC test for what's inside here. So 10, A is 10, D is, or 3 is C, so 10 times 3 is 30. Sorry, my computer's a little slow picking up my pen here. I need two numbers that multiply to 30 and add to -17. So let's see, 10 and 3 don't work. 5 and 6 don't work. Oh, but -15, I could do -15 times -2, right? That would work. So now I'm going to rewrite that guy. Here's the thing. I know at some point you might be looking at this and go like, there's a D squared down there. What's that doing? When you see a second letter like this, and it's just added on here and squared at the end, it's basically like a hitchhiker. You just take it along for the ride. Not that you should be picking up hitchhikers. Just public service announcement. In this case, though, it's like a little parasite that comes along, okay? So I'm going to keep this 10C squared and the -2C out front. I'm going to rewrite my 17CD as -15CD minus 2CD. And then I have the plus 3D squared. Sorry, can you hear the dog in the background? All right, so now I'm going to group. Here's one group. Oh, I tried to use the same color twice. Here's the other group. -2C stays here. So what am I going to take out of 10C squared minus 15CD? I can take out a 5C. That leaves me with 2C minus 3D. Okay, minus, sorry, Yeah, minus. I'm going to take a minus out of the next one because I want the signs to flip. So I'm not going to take out, the only thing they have in common is a D. So I'm going to take out a D, minus 2C minus 3D. Look at that, it worked. Okay, so there's my binomial. I'm going to pull that to the front. The 2C still stays there. So times 2C minus 3D times 5C minus D. You can check this just like you check everything else. You would FOIL these two and then multiply by negative 2C in. Okay, let's try another. This one, equally ugly. Pause for a second, try it. Okay, all right. So first, what's the common terms? Well, everybody's got a 2, everybody's got a W, everybody's got a Z, right? So I'm going to, because this leading coefficient here is negative, I'm going to take out a negative 2. Negative 2, W, Z. What's left? That would be 2Z squared plus WZ minus 10W squared. All right, that's not terrible, right? So now the AC test, multiply the first and last coefficients. That's negative 20. What can I multiply to get negative 20 that adds to my invisible 1? Well, let's think, not 2 and 10, but 4 and 5, right? So let's see, negative 4 times 5 would be 20, negative 4 plus 5 would be 1. So I'm going to rewrite this using negative 4 and 5. 2z squared minus 4wz plus 5wz minus 10w squared. I purposefully put the 4 first here because 4 and 2 match better and 5 and 10 match better. Could they be reversed? Absolutely. It's still going to work. Just be aware of what matches. Life is about making it as easy as possible for yourself, right? So let's make our groups. Here's one. Here's the other. Okay. So what can come out of the first group? I think 2z, right? 2z. So I'm left with z minus 2w. What comes out of the second group? 5w, it looks like, right? Plus 5w. I'm left with z minus 2w. Perfect. So here are my binomials. They match. I'm going to keep this negative 2wz at the front. I'm going to pull z minus 2w, because that's my common term, and gather up what's left, 2z plus 5w. If you don't believe me, check. Okay? All right. There is a section in here, and you'll see some of it in ALEKS, about using the trial and error method to factor. Here's the thing. If this works for you, great. It's not super efficient, and you already have a method. So for my purposes as your teacher here, if you think in this way, great. If you don't, though, don't worry about it. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. More practice is good, okay? But I'm not worried about the trial and error method. We are, though, going to meet some things that are prime, okay? So trial and error, great, but you have a process. So use the process you have. So let's do another AC test. Let's see, this one is 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. So 2 times 6 is 12. Can I multiply any two numbers to make 12 that add to 7? Well, yeah, right? 3 times 4 is 12. 3 plus 4 is 7. So now rewrite. Don't forget this step. 2x squared, 7x becomes 3x plus 4x. I just broke it up. Plus 6. Now let's group. Okay. And yes, I could have put the 4 first and the 3 second. That's fine. This will still work. So I'm going to pull out of the first term, I'm going to take out x. And I'm left with 2x plus 3. Out of the second group, I'm going to take out 2. And I'm left with 2x plus 3. No stress. There's my common binomial. So that's 2x plus 3 times x plus 2. Sweet, done. All right, we're not going to do too many more of those. We're going to skip that one. This one is a little different. What's different about it? Take a look at it. Look real hard. What do you see? I see it looks funny, right? Here's the thing. This one is not in standard form. It's always going to be the highest exponent first from greatest exponent to lowest exponent or no exponent from left to right. Standard form has to come first. If your polynomial is not in standard form, you need to make it so. So I need to rewrite this one. I need to make it 8y squared plus 13y minus 6. All right, and now I need to see if I can make it work. Let's see. 8 times negative 6 for the AC test is negative 48. Can I make anything and subtract to negative 48? Let's see. Well, 48 would be 8 and 6, or sorry, positive 13. Good Lord. Here's the problem. Let's see, 48, 16. Oh, I put something down on my desk and I can't find it. There it is. Think about all the factors. Well, I'm thinking, and I have my answer, but I'm making you think about it. So think about ways to make 48. Let's see. 2 times 24, that's not going to work. 4 times 12, that's close, right? But that's not going to work. Let's see. 3 and 16? Yeah, that could work, right? So if I did 3 times 16, I would get 48. Positive 16, negative 3. Let's break that up. 8y squared, whoops, plus 16y minus 3y minus 6. Okay, now make your groups. There's 1, there's 2. Okay. 8y squared plus 16y. I'm going to take out 8y. And I'm left with y plus 2. What am I going to take out of the second group? I'm going to take out negative 3, right? So minus 3. That gets me a y here, and it changes the second sign, plus 2. Haha. So now I have my binomial, y plus 2. Bring it to the front. Gather up what's left, 8y minus 3. Super. All right. So this one, just like the last one, would need to get rearranged, okay? All right. One thing to note, in a trinomial, the signs can be given as follows. If C, this end coefficient, is positive, both of the signs in the binomials, so when we talk about the binomials, we're talking about this. These signs in the middle, they're either pluses or minuses, right? In your binomial, the signs must be the same if C is positive. Either these are both positive, so we get plus plus, or minus minus, okay? If C is negative, they have to be different, either minus plus or plus minus. That's where you get the negative sign from, okay? All right, so let's try one more. Where do I have that one? Okay, we're not using trial and error still, right? Let's pull out, pages out of order. That's my problem. What do you see? What do you want to do first here? For me, I want to get rid of a common factor because this is ugly. Let's see what we can do. Boy, I wish I could take out 20, but it doesn't look like it, right? I think the best I can do is 4. Bummer. So I'm going to take out negative 4. Can I take out an x? I can, and a y. All right, that's fine. So I'm left with 20 x squared minus, what's 208 divided by 4? It's got to be 52. 52xy plus 5x xy squared, right? Nope, just I took out an xy squared. Okay, so now I have to use the AC test on these on this trinomial. So 20 times 5 is 100. 100. So I need two numbers that multiply to 100 and add and subtract to negative 52. Ah, that's not a bad one, actually. That's not as bad as it sounds, because they're going to make a positive number, right? This is positive 100 I have to make. So I know the signs for my two factors for this have to be either both the same, or sorry, they do have to be both the same. They have to be both plus or both minus. Okay, so I could do negative 50 times negative 2, and that would give me negative 52. So keep what's out front and rewrite 20x cubed minus 50xy minus 2xy plus 5y squared. And now we're back to grouping, right? All right, so keep what's at front, and let's take one group at a time. I can take 10, that should be a squared, 10x out of the first one, so that leaves me with 2x minus 5y. And out of the second one, I really just want to take a negative and a y. That gets me 2x minus 5y. Oh, and there's my binomial term, right? So pull that to the front. Keep the negative 4xy. Pull out to the front 2x minus 5y. And then gather up what's left, 10x minus y. And you're there. Ta-da! All right. That's another example you can try, okay? This one has a common term, just like the last one. Let's try this one. 2x squared plus 9x plus 14. So 2 times 14 is 28. I need factors that multiply to 28 and add or subtract to 9. Well, let's think about ways to make 28. 1 and 28, nope. 2 and 14. I know the signs have to be the same, so both plus or both minus, because that's a plus. So 2 and 14 doesn't get it. 7 and 4, and that's really it. 7 plus 4 is 11. Negative 7 and negative 4 is negative 11. That's not going to work. So here's the thing. Sometimes you have something that doesn't work. This is not going to happen a lot, so don't use this one just when you're stuck. When it happens that you don't come up with any factors that work to make this B term, what that means is that this is prime. It can't be factored any further. What you're going to write is that it's prime, okay? So let's see another one that looks like that. Oh, I give that away, huh? 6 times 10 is 60, right? Positive. So I need two numbers that multiply to make 60 and add and subtract to negative 13. So let's see, 6 and 10, nope. 20 and 3, nope. 15 and 4, no. 30 and 2, nope. So we don't have anything. This is, again, going to be prime. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, trinomials. Okay, so when there's a leading coefficient of 1, you can go through the AC test. It works. However, you likely learned a way in high school to pick this out, to say to yourself, oh, okay, I need two numbers that multiply to 16 and add and subtract to negative 10. It's the same idea as the AC test, because really it's just 1 times 16, isn't it? So two numbers that multiply to make positive 16 and add and subtract to make negative 10. That would be, let's see, negative 8 and negative 2. So I can rewrite and factor by grouping. That's fine. We're going to talk in a second about another way. So I can pull out the x minus 8. I'm going to pull out a negative 2, x minus 8. Okay, I've got my binomials, x minus 8. and gather up the rest, x minus 2. Here's the thing. What did we use to rewrite? We used a -8 and a -2, didn't we? What do you see here? So when there is no leading coefficient, the numbers that you're going to use to break up the b term here actually are just the factors. So what I could have done is said like, oh, okay, +16, -10, I'm going to use -8 and -2. Those are just my factors. This only works, though, when there is a leading coefficient of 1, when there is no number higher than 1 there. So let's try it again. So I want to multiply to -27, because there's a 1 here. I can do this. And add to 6. Well, let's see. Negative sign here means the signs in my binomials have to be different. One has to be negative, one has to be positive. Let's see, what makes 27? 9 and 3, right? So I would need C and C. Which one has to be negative? Which one has to be positive? The bigger number has to be positive, right? Because 6 is positive, so 9 and 3. And if you did this by grouping, the same thing would happen. Okay. All right, so here's the factored form of a perfect square. Okay, anything that looks like this makes a perfect square. This is a perfect square trinomial. Means you multiplied the same things together twice to get to this. They're always in this form. It is really important that you recognize these because it will help you. These are hard to sort of just factor out of the sky, okay? But let's see what happens. So what do I notice here? I notice this is 36. That's a perfect square. I know x squared is a perfect square. I know that 6 squared is 36, right? So do you. I also can notice that 6 doubled is 12, isn't it? And look, this would have been 6 squared and 6 doubled in the middle. So this is a perfect square. I can go ahead and group and do all of those things. But what is really happening here is this is made out of x plus 6 and x plus 6. There's no minus signs to be had here, so I'm not going to use any here, right? Let's try another one. This one is tricky, isn't it? 1 is a perfect square, isn't it? 1 squared is just 1. 1 doubled is 2. So what's my factors? Well, it's both pluses, right? Because it's all plus signs. X, and it's the value of the square, okay? X plus 1, x plus 1. If you don't believe me, multiply it out. All right, this one is a little uglier. Why? Because it's got an extra number. It's got a number here. But here's the thing. That 4 is a perfect square. So is the 81. Okay, so I'm going to use that to help me. The base here is 2 squared, right? This one is 9 squared. Now stop and think for a second. If I did 2 times this 2, I'll make it red, times 9 for that 81, that 9. What's 2 times 2 times 9? 2 times 2 is 4. Times 9 is 36. Look at that. It's a perfect square. So the way I can write this is first I need to look at the signs. That's a negative, so I know one has to be negative, one has to be positive. Excuse me, and I need an x and a y. Because this y is just hitchhiking, okay? And I use the bases that I had. This is going to be a 9. It's going to be a 9. It's going to be a 2. It's going to be a 2. You can go through and factor by grouping here and use the AC test. It's going to work. But you can also use your mental math skills, which is what you're practicing right this second. Okay, try one more. What do you see? I see perfect squares. I see one at the start. I see one at the finish. So the base here is 3, right? 3 squared is 9. The base here is 2. 2 squared is 4. Let's see the middle. If I did 3 times 2 times 2. What do I get? 3 times 2 is 6 times 2 is 12. So I know this is a perfect square. So I'm going to look at the signs. This one's a minus, this one's a plus. So I have two different signs. I'm going to put in my y and my z, the hitchhiker z, and then I'm going to use my bases. 3 and 2, 3 and 2, and it's done. Ta-da! All right. This is called substitution. This is a strange idea, but it's actually kind of handy. So this looks crazy, doesn't it? But it's not as bad as you think, because this binomial right here is repeated. So sometimes it's easier just to sort of not see it. I'm going to pretend for a second that this is an x. X is equal to 2x minus 7. I'm going to substitute. So here I'm going to write x squared. And then I'm going to do minus 3x minus 40. Oh, that looks much more like something I could do, doesn't it? So I'm going to factor this. I need two numbers that multiply to negative 40 and add to negative 3 because there's a 1 here, so I don't have to go through that whole process. Negative 40, let's see. So my signs are going to be different. 4 and 10 doesn't work. 20 and 2 doesn't work. Oh, 8 and 5 would work though. Let's see, I would need x minus 8, x minus 5. So there are my factors. Now what I need to do is take what I substituted and put it back, okay? So I'm going to write 2x minus 7 minus 8 and 2x minus 7 minus 5. And I'm going to combine like terms because it's messy to leave this like this. It's like not cleaning up after dinner, okay? So 2x minus 15 and 2x minus 12. It's done. We've substituted, okay? Let's try one more like that. You see the same thing, try it. Okay, so our x is going to be equal to 3x plus 1. So that's going to be x squared plus 2x minus 15. Leading coefficient is 1, so I don't need to do the whole AC test. I just need to think multiplies to negative 15, adds to 2. My signs are going to be different. So let's see, I need a positive 2. I could use 3 and 5, right? So I could use a positive 5 and a negative 3. So I have my factors now. Now I need to put that back. So 3x plus 1 plus 5 and 3x plus 1 minus 3. So that gets me 3x plus 6 and 3x plus 1 minus 3 minus 2. Okay? Not terrible. And we're almost there. All right. This is the same idea. Okay? Factor using substitution. What you want to think about in this case is that this x, or sorry, that y to the 6th is really more than I want to deal with, right? It's not going to hurt you. But really, I want to pretend that I want a y squared. That's what I want to work with. I want to use a trinomial. So what could I use if I want this to be y, right? Doubled, so I'm going to say, I'm going to substitute x. I'm going to say x equals y cubed, okay? So I'm just going to make this 5x minus 4. What's this y to the 6th going to be? Well, that's 2 of these y cubed, right? Y cubed and y cubed. That's 3 y's and 3 y's make 6 y's. So it's just 2 sets of them, that squared. So now I can use the AC test. There is a leading coefficient here. So negative 6 times negative, or 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. I need to add and subtract to negative 5. Negative 8 and 3, right? So I'm going to rewrite negative 5 as negative 8x plus 3x minus 4. All right. So now I'm going to group like we've been doing all along. Oops, that should be squared. I keep doing that. I'm going to pull out a 2x here, and I'm going to get x. Oops, sorry, 3x. Eeks, I should use the eraser maybe. That is ugly. 3x minus 4. Oh, and on the next term, I can just use a 1 because that's already what I want it to be. Pull my binomial to the front, and I get 3x minus 4 times 2x plus 1. And now we have to put back what we started with, okay? So 3y cubed minus 4 and 2y cubed minus 1. If you FOIL this, you're going to get this original polynomial. All right, so always factor out the greatest common factor. If it's a perfect square, pay attention. These should be exponents up here. Okay, you don't need the AC method or trial and error or any of that stuff. If it's a perfect square, you know what to do. If it's not a perfect square, use the AC method. Trial and error is a pain. Check your work by remultiplying, okay? If it's an algebraic expression, you should be able to get this to come back if it's the right thing. All right, this is the end of the notes for 4.6. They'll get posted. The video is here for you. If you need to rewatch any part, please do. Thanks.